Beep, beep. Welcome to the court of the Edijester. How are we, everybody? Good to be speaking to you again once more. It's the middle of the night here, but what the hell? Let's get it up and set and running so you can have it. I've got something interesting. Do you remember yesterday we discussed an organisation called AdvanceHE and their involvement in providing what looks to be erroneous information to various universities and other organisations, which meant that they've been, giving gender more than it's worth. So I was quite intrigued to come across this post, which also includes the marvellous Kathleen stock, in regards to how AdvanceHE have been at this for a while. Now, that thread that I gave you looked at the history of AdvanceHE. This was yesterday, the AdvanceHE. But this is something that's popped up from 2021. So let's take a look at this. But before we do, please do become a Warrior Teacher. Come and join us. We're beginning in a few weeks' time at the end of April. On a Tuesday, I think it is, last Tuesday or the last Tuesday of each month, so starting in April. If not, if you can buy me a coffee, please do. But subscribe, do the usual, share this if you will, anything to keep things going. That's the most important thing for me at the minute, is I want to be able to keep going. So let's dig into this. This is from, as I said, the 21st of November, the 30th of November in 2021 by Gabriella Swirling, which is a great name, Gabriella. So it's interesting to look back at this now 4 years later, some 4 years later, coming on for. Scheme designed to promote women in academia has been destroyed by trans lobby, critics warn. So this is sort of, it's got that flavour of something building, and it seems that it's all coming to a head at the moment with various posts about AdvanceHE and questions about their ridiculous Athena Swan scheme. So academics say the decision by the Athena Swan scheme to collect data on gender identity rather than sex is ridiculous. Now, the Athena Swan scheme was set up to promote women in academia. Originally, it's the same thing again about good intentions. I mentioned this yesterday in the post that was the tweet thread that we went over. So Athena Swan was meant to help women do this, that, and t'other. I mean, it was always doomed to failure because it's involved in things like quotas and stuff like nonsense like that. So Athena Swan is what it was called. The scheme, Athena Swan, is offered by AdvanceHE. There's a feminist professors have claimed that this has been destroyed. Formerly, it was called the Higher Education Academy, a charity which advises education institutions. In 2005, it established the Athena Swan Charter as a framework to support and transform gender equality, with sex equality, they mean, within higher education and research. Now, the framework is used across the world to advance the careers of women in science, technology, engineering, maths, and medicine. STEM, STEMM. They're doing very well in medicine, it should be added. Institutions which sign up to the framework can apply for Athena Swan Awards, recognising their gender equality efforts. We're back to Stonewall without the puffs. This is where all this nonsense may well have started. However, AdvanceHE is now recommending that data be collected exclusively on gender identity, not sex. That's interesting, isn't it? 2021 that started. Wonder who started with them in 2021. There's something to go and look at. Wonder who started with them. Is that after COVID? I get confused about how long ago it was. Its website states, AdvanceHE recommends asking a question about gender rather than asking a question about sex. This ensures equality efforts are inclusive of a diverse range of gender identities. What happened in 2021? What happened in 2021 that made them, accommodate gusset fumblers? That's what I want to know. Feminist academics have warned that it is ridiculous for data on both gender and sex to be conflated. Professor Alice Sullivan, who we know as a player in the GC movement, Professor Alice Sullivan, Professor of Sociology at University College London, and Dr. John Armstrong, Senior Lecturer in Financial Mathematics, Probability and Statistics, co-authored a blog post published by the British Educational Research Association, or BERA as they're known, saying Athena Swan's embrace of gender as a spectrum appears incompatible with its founding purpose. It certainly does. This raises uncomfortable questions about the tendency of the HE, higher education sector, to outsource its thinking about qualities to external bodies. Now, bear in mind, we are now 4 years, away from that. We're now well ahead of the game. An awful lot's happened, and actually, what was stated there by Dr. John Armstrong was absolutely true. Absolutely true. It is incompatible. Absolutely incompatible. Responding to the blog post, Kathleen Stock, a philosophy professor who quit her post at the University of Sussex after becoming the subject of a campaign by students who opposed her views on gender, agreed with the authors, saying, the founding premise of Athena Swan destroyed. In other words, it's ridiculous, she told the Telegraph. It changes the subject. Your data on systematic discrimination of women is no longer robust. Dr. Armstrong added, I think it's absolutely fantastic to collect data on gender identity and sex. I don't know why you think it's fantastic to collect on gender identity. Might have been about the time, 2021, trying to get some leeway. I mean, now I think we should utterly condemn anything that even thinks gender identity is real. But they should absolutely not be conflated, Dr. Armstrong said at the time, which is how most people would view it now. I'm tougher on this. I think gender identity is immaterial. We should stop collecting anything on it at all and shut the front door. So no more operations, no more messing about, no more GRAs. And within 25 years, it'll be over. AdvanceHE was contacted for a comment in response to the blog post, but did not respond. Again, what is it with these organisations that they won't stand up for what they believe in or they won't talk about it? That was in 2021. We don't seem to have heard much from them since, and none of the channels, even GB News, appears to have picked this up yet. I'm quite intrigued to see where it goes. The organisation has previously said seeking accreditation against the UK Athena Swan Charter is entirely voluntary and not prescriptive. It is no longer linked to funding. No longer linked to funding. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? We strongly advocate open, constructive debate both within and between HE institutions on these challenging issues. Now, I'm intrigued by that. Are we saying that we were aware that the problem of linking these sort of nonsense to funding was actually a problem then in 2021? When did that link no longer exist? So lots of questions around Athena Swan, I think, that need to be answered. Concerns about the programme mirror those about the advice provided to businesses and public bodies by the LGBTQ. Plus, hands, knees and bumps a daisy charity, Stonewall, and its diversity champion scheme. Again, another one of these almost pyramidal. They're almost like a Ponzi scheme, isn't it? Except it's a sort of emotional blackmail, really. The scheme is a paid-for program which advises organisations on creating inclusive workplaces. It also has a separate workplace equality index in which it scores employers on their diversity efforts. Critics of the programme have claimed it is ignoring the concerns of women by promoting the opening up of previously women-only spaces to those who self-identify as female. The BBC recently said it would leave both schemes. Now, I know that it left Stonewall and it jumped straight into bed with another bunch of clowns because its participation had raised questions about whether it could be impartial on issues with the LGBTQ plus hands, knees and bumps a daisy charity is campaigning on. Other organisations, including Channel 4, Ofcom, the Equality and Marketing Commission and the Cabinet Office, have also made similar decisions. Stonewall did not respond to requests for comment either. Isn't it interesting? This was 2021. So it's interesting to me to look back and think, goodness me, that was 2021 when this actually was news. I remember them leaving, and I know that they jumped into bed with another bunch of clowns at the BBC. But it's fairly obvious to me that this has been going on for a long time. There needs to be some kind of legislation, I think, to prevent these kind of schemes because they're just a con. It's just a con, isn't it? By equity wallers. Just a con. But then you'll tell me in the Dubras, as you always do, whether or not you think it's a con, because I certainly do. And on that note, I'll say bye-bye.